The job that we're starting today has already caused a lot of controversy in the yard. Some people think we're brilliant for doing it, and other people think we're absolutely crazy. So the thing that we're doing, folks, is we're cutting our skegs off. And it's quite surprising even for me. When we were looking for a boat and we came across Emma, one of the best things I liked about her is that she was one of the few models of this type of crowther that had nice big skegs on her. It gives us the ability to beach. It allows us to have a nice big roachy mane, and it also offers an element of protection when we're steaming along, as the skegs are the deepest point on the boat. And today, we're cutting them off.
We're the James family.
Are you sick of your day-to-day life? Ever thought about doing something different?
Well, we did just that.
We bought an unfinished aluminium catamaran and we're fixing her up as we sail around the world.
Come along for the journey and click subscribe.
Daddy? Mommy? Charlie? James.
Yep, you heard me correctly, folks. We are cutting the skegs off. One of the main reasons we bought Emma, we are now cutting them off. And let me explain why we're cutting them off. We didn't come to the yard intending to cut them off. They were always going to stay. We were cutting off these anodes. And the reason we're cutting off these anodes is because it's creating a lot of drag. They sit on the outside here. You get all sorts of disturbed water in behind it, and it slows us down, and we're not quite getting the speeds that we hoped we would out of her. Now, if you come with me over to the other side of the boat here, we've got a weld seam here, and here is where an anode was. So as we were here cutting off these anodes, we were looking, and there's a weld seam here, which is the center of the boat, and it goes into the skeg right here, which is in front of this weld seam by at least a foot, pretty much equal with the front of where the anode was. Now if you come with me to the other side, here is this very same weld seam, and it doesn't join the skeg until here, which is well past the weld seam. So on the other side, it goes into the skeg here, which is 12-14 mil difference. And so what that means is if you eye off the skegs, they're actually towed inwards. So essentially we've got two big anchors that we're trying to pull through the water there, which slows us down, reduces our release off the stern, and that's why we've been bogging down so much in the back end. So we're cutting them off due to speed. Now, we get added advantages. Also, if you have a look at the piece that we've cut off, that reduces a heap of drag and it's weight saving. So they're approximately 30 kilos each. So if we come and have a look at the piece, these were designed to take the weight of the boat. So the outside casing of the boat is 4 mil aluminium, which is this here, but then all the framework here is 8 mil, and we have 10 mil at the back that goes all the way back through, so it equals to a fair bit of weight there. They're quite heavy. So we're getting rid of the weight. These two put together 60 odd kilos, which would be fantastic. And also all of this drag, the underwater wetted area, will also be slowing us down. But the main reason is they were towed in, and that was slowing us down tremendously. So at a rough guesstimate, I believe cutting these off is going to save us around about a knot. It's a pretty bold statement, I know. We'll find out when we get launched, but I'm fairly confident we'll go a knot faster without these on, and that's the reason we're cutting them off. So it may be quite hard to see on the GoPro here, but this line here is essentially the center line of the boat. It's the backbone, and it runs through, and where it enters the skeg on this side is right here. You can see it starting to come through. Back here on the other side, it's underneath the weld. Now, where it joins on the other side of the boat is actually up here, just in front of where the anode is. So around about here. If you measure the difference, it's 35 millimeters difference. So that's just at this section. If you go over the whole thing, where it's cut in and cut out, there is a considerable difference with how much it's towed in and towed out compared to this side to the other side. Then when you look at both of them as a whole, they're both actually towed in slightly. This one towed in a lot more than the other side, and that's what's creating essentially a break as we're having to pull all that surface area through the water. It's also creating a disturbed, turbid water behind the boat, and that's why we don't have a clean release on the stern, and it's bogging us down in the back end as well as we go. So hopefully by cutting these skegs off, it's going to negate all of those problems. It is a shame because we loved the element of safety they brought. We loved the option to be able to beach the boat. So what we're going to do in the future is we're going to get some Hessian bags, and that way they're nice and light. We can keep them on board all the time, and if we do need to beach at any time, go ashore, fill them up with sand, because we'll be beaching on the sand or mud anyway, and we can place them stacked underneath the hull and then still have the ability to dry out in an emergent situation. You can see on this side, this is where the backbone is again, the weld, which is the central part of the boat. It comes along and it enters the skeg on this side. You can see here's where the weld seam is the same as the other side, and on the other side, at a rough guess, it enters here. So there's a fair bit of difference, and runs out and along out that side like that. And here, this is where the anode was. You can see very closely, it's where the weld goes into the hull, just here. So we noticed the point of difference, then we started talking, and yeah, we've decided to cut them off. We're too late now, we're committed, as we've already cut one of them off, and we'll hopefully be finishing this one off today. Tools that we're using to cut these off today is the circular saw. Now what we've done is we've bought a special carbide tip blade to go with it. When you are cutting aluminium, as it's a very soft metal, you want to wax up the blade, and we've just got some candle wax here. We rub it on. When it gets hot, we keep applying it and rubbing it on to stop it from binding up. And you also want to look at the depth of your saw. So what we've found is if you have it too shallow, where it's just the teeth, it spits all this hot stuff all over you and everywhere. So if you have it where the teeth are just below the actual metal, it'll spit some inside and not as much over you. But you don't want to do too deep a cut, because when you come to the framework and that, it binds up and it kicks back on you. So just enough where the teeth are underneath and inside. When you're using the reciprocating saw, again, you want to have your trusty wax. And what we've done is we've also got a carbide tip blade on this one. We wax it up, and then also when it's hot, keep waxing it up and putting it on the side so it doesn't bind up. When you are using it, you take a bite out of one side, take a bite out of the other side, keeping the angle. Don't attack it flat, because it'll take you forever. And then get it very close, and then go to the other side and do the same again on an angle, around the other side on another angle, and we found that to be the quickest and most efficient way to do it, where you don't bind up on your blades too much and jam your machine. On these ones, between 2 and 3 is the setting. If you go too fast, it starts going a bit hot and spitting hot stuff everywhere, and too slow and it just takes a really long time. Another hot tip that we have is, if you are buying, you know, certain blades, as in this one here is particularly for aluminium, and you get it on your tool, it might not fit. So with our one, it doesn't fit, it's too large. So what will happen is, in the packets with all of these extra blades will be inserts. So this one has a little metal insert here. You press that into the center, like so, and then fit the blade in, and it fits perfect. That's her there, and then she won't wobble or chew out. She'll be perfectly centered and cut beautifully. You can see here we've got a special metal blade for our grinder, and also when I take this one out of its packet, it also has a metal insert here. Now don't throw these away straight away, make sure that this hole is the right hole for your grinder first, because otherwise you may need to put the metal insert in to make it the right size.
The next step is to bring Robin in for the final touches to the shafts. We introduced you guys last week to him, but for anyone who's new here, this is Robin. He is an outstanding welder and the reason we traveled to Cairns for the haul out. Robin is cleaning up the skegs and welding new plates to the stern tubes.
So these here are our finished results, well, almost finished results of our skegs. Now this really illustrates the challenges that we're facing with our skegs. If you look up here, this is that center weld seam I was talking about. That's the center line of the boat. And it comes along here and then ends up going into the skeg and finishing here with the propeller being on the center line. So the challenges that the original boat builder had was, you can see he's done a line up the front there, which is exactly offset to the center line. So he tried to just move the skegs over, but he couldn't keep them over because the propellers and the ends of them were on the center line. So therefore they had to be kicked out a little bit. And so what we've done is, where it comes out of the boat is still off the center, and where it ends up is on the center line, so they're both still kicked in. So we minimized our underwater wetted surface area. This here is the stern tube. Inside of it is a stainless tube, so we could weld to it because the alloy on the outside isn't the main carrier for our shaft. We had to put outsides on it for strength to keep it nice and strong, but we've made it as small as we possibly can. So it is still towed inwards, but it's got a lot less wetted surface area. If you can see all the way up there where the anti-foul isn't, that's how big our skegs were. So they were kicked mega. Now we've just got little small ones that just kick inwards a little bit. The next step for us to do is we're going to get some bog and we're going to fair it all, fair these front edges, make it a lot smoother, and then apply the anti-foul. We can't apply the anti-foul until just before we go in the water. If we leave it out of the water for too long, the biocides and things like that in the outer layer starts eating away and not being as productive as we'd like them to be. So generally speaking, you want your antifoul to go on at no more than a week before you go in the water. So this job right now is another big tick in the box. It's completed until we get ready for antifouling and going in, which hopefully isn't that far off. There's been a lot of opinions around the yard. Let us know in the comments below what your opinion is and whether you agree with our thought patterns and the reason why we're cutting them off, and whether you think we've done the right thing or not.
Join us next week for the kickoff of our biggest project during this refit. We've dropped a few hints and briefly mentioned it when we were replacing the rigging. We are extending the boat. Get ready for the hull extensions. Thank you so much for watching, and a huge shout out to our Patreons. Your support makes these videos possible. We can't wait to see you guys next week as we start chopping off the back of our boat. Bye guys.